Hey guys, this is Coach Brian. I'm going over the 1.3b student notes with you, and this is going to be a part 1, part 2 video because 1, it would just be way too long to make this into one video, and 2, we're talking about 2 different methods of solving quadratic equations. So part 1 will be one method, and part 2 will be the other method. So let's jump into this. This will be the faster of the 2 videos. This is going to focus on the square root method. And again, our objective here is that we will solve quadratic equations. And we're going to use both of these methods, the square root method and completing the square. So part 1 here will be focused on the square root method. And here's kind of, a step 1, step 2, step 3 of how we're going to do things. In each of these equations, regardless of its complexity, we want to try to isolate what's squared, and then to cancel that square, we're going to square root both sides, because remember, roots and powers work against each other. And then lastly, it says don't forget the plus or minus, because we're going to get, 2 separate solutions right there. The positive is a solution, the negative is a solution, and so we're going to need to make sure we work both of those paths when necessary, the positive path and the negative path. So starting off here, we're just going to be following these steps on repeat, and the more that you do it, the more that you practice, the easier that it will be. So with this first one, you can see, my x is trapped inside these parentheses, and that's squared. And my first step, going back to my list, is to try to isolate that, which means I want to get this 23 over to the other side. And right now it's a negative 23. So I'm going to add 23 to both sides. And I know some of y'all like to do this, and I haven't been doing that, so I'll try to do that. That will leave me with x plus 7 squared over here, and that will give me 36 on this side. So that's step 1. And going back up, just going to keep referring to these steps. It says to find the square root of both sides. So roots and powers work against each other. If I have a power of 2 and a root of 2, they're going to cancel each other out. And when you have a square root squared, or x plus 7 squared square root, they're just going to cancel each other out, and you're going to be left with x plus 7. I guess I can drop the parentheses now. Oh, big eraser. X plus 7 equals, and whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I have to also find the square root of 36, which in this case happens to be 6. And then lastly, step 3, don't forget the plus or the minus. Now, like I said, this is 2 separate solutions. So, I know back when you took Algebra 2, your teacher might have shown you, going this way, and one is the positive path, one's the negative, and I like that. It helps you keep it separate. So let's go on the positive path. We're going to say x plus 7 equals positive 6, and on the negative path, we're going to say x plus 7 equals negative 6. And that's our 2 solutions, and if you're wondering where I got that from, it's right here, plus 6. And just to show you why, it's because positive 6 times positive 6 equals 36, but also negative 6 times negative 6 equals 36. So the square root of 36 can be both of those different answers. Now, we're just going to finish solving both of these separately, and going on my positive side, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, and that will give me that x equals negative 1. So that's one of my solutions. And then on this other side, I'm also going to subtract 7 from both sides, and it's already negative, so I'm getting more negative. All right, I'm taking away even more, so x equals negative 13. So those would be my 2 solutions. My 2 answers to this problem would be -1, and -13. Sorry, that was kind of an ugly box. I'll fix that up. All right, so it's going to be that same process. Now, obviously, our questions, our examples will get a little more complex, and they might have a little more or a few more operations. So it's important to remember your order of operations and just ultimately remember that we're trying to isolate whatever is squared so that we can then start kind of peeling away the layers from it. So first thing I need to do on example number 2 is I need to move the 17 to the other side. And when I do that, you can see I've already got like kind of a deficit over here with my -5. So when I add 17 to -5, it's going to bring me back up over 0. It's going to bring me up to +12. Now, over here, I'm left with 3x minus 5 squared. And the next thing I want to get rid of is the 3. So right now it's kind of understood that the 3 is being multiplied by this value. So I'm going to undo that with some division. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. So that will cancel. And that will leave me with x minus 5 squared. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So I'm getting, step by step, I'm getting a little more simplified. And now I've finally succeeded in isolating this. And so I'm going to jump to step 2, which is find the square root of both sides. And a square root of a square will cancel out. And that will leave me x minus 5 on the left. And it will leave me positive or -2 on the right. And then again, we want to solve both sides of this. So we've got a positive side. We've got sorry, that's ugly. We've got still ugly. What's going on? Negative side. And I'm going to write x minus 5 equals +2. And I'm going to write x minus 5 equals -2. And I'm going to solve both of these by adding 5. So I get x equals 7. And by adding 5, so I get x equals 3. So those are my 2 solutions for example number 2, 7 and 3. 7 and 3. All right. Last example for part 1. We're going to work it in the exact same way. We're going to try to isolate this first. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. That will leave me with 24. And then on this left side, it will leave me with 4 times x plus 9 squared. And I want to get rid of that 4 out in front. It is being multiplied, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to divide, and those will cancel, and that will leave me with x plus 9 squared equals 6. Equals 6. So 6 is not a perfect square. That's all right. They're not always going to be perfect squares. So when I find the square root of the left, and that cancels, and I find the square root of the right, I've got x plus 9 equals the positive or negative square root of 6. And since it's not a perfect square, a clean square, I'm going to leave it as it is. And just like we've been doing, I am going to have a positive side, and I'm going to have a negative side, and I am going to, on the positive side, put x plus 9 equals positive square root of 6. The negative side, I'm going to put x plus 9 equals negative square root of 6. And then to solve both of these, I'm going to have to subtract 9 from both sides. Now, these are considered mixed numbers since the square root of 6 and the square root of 9, I don't know the exact value of the square root of 6, and so I can't just subtract it. So I'm just going to simplify it as much as I can, and I'm going to say -9 plus square root of 6. And that's, that's really as simplified as I can get that answer. And I'm going to subtract 9 over here as well. And that will leave me with x equals -9 minus the square root of 6. And that's my second solution. And without getting into decimals or, more complex numbers, this answer is fine and it is correct. So just leave it in its radical form, and those would be your two solutions. So hopefully this helped, and we'll continue the notes and the completing the square method in part 2.